I have to say the positivity of his music, you don't hear that as much anymore.
The way hip hop started, it was a lot of messages. You go back to Nas, go back to Queen Latifah, all of that. And, they all had messages in their music. And it's like now the messages that are, being put out there for the youth and things like that, they're not using the platform properly.
I remember coming across a rap that he had about his mom on Mother's Day, and it just brought back memories of the time where Tupac was, of course it was a Tupac beat, but just that type of vibe and that type of message that you don't hear a lot from. And to me, that spoke volumes.
I like his music because there's always a message behind it. There's something positive behind it, and I like that.
There was a time in around the year 2007, 2008, I was working in Atlanta with a dope artist named Roderick Burton. He's deceased now, named Dollar. And when I went down there to work with him, he was signed to Akon, and he was signed. I was trying to fit into the industry, trying to fit into industry standards, and always trying to make records that will be pleasing to other people's ear, but not from my heart. My music wasn't always about change and about positivity and about growth amongst our people. So just recently, I began to, find myself as an artist and say, okay, it's important that I speak it from the heart and from the soul. Since I've done that, the stars begin to align because it's like you're speaking from the heart, you're speaking from the soul, you're being yourself. So it's more importantly, it's like I had a conflict within myself. So I had to learn to love myself before I can spread that love out to other people, because now it's real, it's genuine. And when it's from the soul, people could tell.
Anytime I hear, the music that he's making, just the positivity of it, I think it's a great message for the youth.
You look around now, as I get older and more mature mentally and spiritually, you get to see certain things like, all right, what is the legacy that I'm gonna leave behind? One day I won't be here. One day I'm gonna have children of my own to leave that legacy behind. So then you begin to ask yourself these questions: what am I doing? What part am I doing to make a change? So that's where that comes in. I look around and I see, I watch the news and I read the internet and the comment sections especially, and I see so much hatred and so much volatile behavior on all sides, from all factions, that I have to look and say, Rich, you have to do your part to change. You are given a gift, and how are you utilizing this gift that God has given you in order to create that change and create that spark that maybe one day, if it's not you, it'll be somebody else that brings it to the forefront.
Personally, I get scared with everything that's going on with all the social injustice. My husband is a black man. My children are half black and half Puerto Rican. I'm scared all the time, and they're boys. I get scared with them growing up and how bad situations have gotten.
I grew up around temptation. I've seen people shot. Me, not wanting that for myself or for my future family, I decided that I had to get up and get out. I'm still scared for me and my kids.
And I remember he was at Subway, and he went in, got a sub, came out, was eating the sub in the car, and the police made him get out of the car. No reason, didn't give him a reason, just get out, give me your license and registration. And I called the police station. Both my kids were pulled over constantly.
I guess I have a unique perspective in this whole thing because I am a black man in America. I was born in the Dominican Republic. I was adopted at 9 months old. I came to live in a small town in Connecticut, North Haven, and I became a police officer at 21 years old. Knowing the fears, knowing the responsibility that would come with the job, I really took a liking to it because I enjoy human nature, and I like to learn why people do the things they do. I don't think you could place the blame on one particular person, right? You have a community out there that are afraid of the people who police them. You have a police force out there that are afraid that every turn they make, they're gonna be looked at as being racist or being a bully, or just, fearing making a wrong decision at the wrong time.
Anyone that knows me knows that after God and self, family is of the highest priority. So when I think of Shirlene Spell and her family, I visualize skipping a rock into a settled pond. Once that rock hits the water, it begins a ripple effect that continues well after the rock has submerged to the bottom. For there's no doubt in my mind that the tragic events that occurred created a ripple within their family that will last for many generations, if not eternity.
My son was getting in trouble, and I knew he was. Wait a minute, I gotta stop for a second. April 1st, 1998, I was looking at the news, and there was a police shootout on the corner of Blake and Osborne, and they showed the paramedics putting a kid in the back of the truck, and I seen the child's feet, and I looked at my father because I was at my parents' house, and I looked at my father, and I said, "That's Alan." He says, "No, it's not." I said, "Yes, it is."
About 1 o'clock at night, and I'm coming down Whaley Avenue, and I saw the cars going into the Village, which is a section of Westville. And I was tired because I had been working probably since about 9 o'clock. And the only thing that occurred to me was, I hope it didn't have anything to do with my nephew, with Alan. I went home, got a couple hours sleep, and the chief of detectives called me, said, "Stacy, I need a favor. I need you to come in." And he asked me, "Who's Aaliyah?" which was one of his daughters, which was tattooed on his arm. It was one of the hardest things that I've had to do in this life. Because first of all, I had to go notify my father that he had passed. And my father was still working in those days. And my father gets off of work and there's a wall in front of his house. Now my father's a very stoic man. He's not one to show emotion. My father is the man that I emulate. And I'm bona fide, certified, qualified, tough guy. And my father sits down on the wall and breaks down crying.
We found out the next day that it was Alan. He had been shot 10 times by this police officer. My son did, he did a robbery. 10 times is a little excessive to me. And when you get shot in the sole of your feet, that tells me that you're already down. He's not a threat to your life. I'm not condoning what my son did. Why are you continuing to shoot him in the bottom of his feet, even in his mouth? He had bullet holes all over his body. That was a bit excessive to me.